As the golden core cultivator fell, the Thousand Insect Sect's foundation establishment and Chi refining cultivators immediately crumbled like a landslide. They surrendered in droves. And in the blink of an eye, the battlefield was filled with Thousand Insect Sect cultivators no longer resisting. Chu Xuan, seeing that Wan Wuing was safe and sound, breathed a sigh of relief. His master was still alive. Thankfully, there was no need to flee. At that moment, a voice transmission echoed in his ear, "Come find me in the eastern forest." Chu Xuan immediately headed there and found Wan Wuing looking somewhat pale. Chu Xuan produced some healing pills. "Master, are you injured?" Wan Wuing dismissed them with a wave of his hand. "Your healing pills are of no use to me, take them back." Chu Xuan nodded. Thinking he hadn't really planned to give them anyway, it was just for appearances. Wan Wuing took several glossy pills and popped them into his mouth, gradually bringing some color back to his cheeks. He looked at Chu Xuan with a complex expression and after a long pause said, "Is it just you?" Chu Xuan nodded. "What happened?" "Tell me about it," Wan Wuing requested. Chu Xuan recounted the battle in detail, not intending to lie, as Wan Wuing would surely find out the truth if he chose to investigate. He merely omitted that he harbored merit and had practiced the techniques of the Golden Dragon Temple. Wei Teng, the trader, HNPH, well killed. Li Zinchan. Sigh, he was always too naive, too kind-hearted for demonic cultivation. Li Xuanming. He did nothing wrong, why did you kill him? Wan Wuing looked at Chu Xuan. Chu Xuan replied calmly. He did nothing wrong. But he might have treated me the same way in the future. So I killed him. Also, keeping him would have split the cultivation resources and attention you give to me. Better to focus all on one than to dilute the effect across two. It's better if there's only me. Wan Wuing commented, "You're quite straightforward. The battle is over. I need to go back and heal. I'll emerge from seclusion after some time." Chu Xuan started to speak, then hesitated. Wan Wuing chuckled, "I know what you want to ask. The leaders of the Heavenly Seal sect aren't fools, they guessed early on that Imperial Spirit Mountain was interfering. The supposed reassignment of Zhao Wuya and Huan Yuanwu was merely a ruse, they never left and stayed nearby. Zhu Taiji, driven by personal desires, secretly collaborated with Imperial Spirit Mountain to attack his fellow sect members and even ordered his disciples to kill disciples from my extranean cave. He will be punished and stripped of various resources and positions. However, as a golden core cultivator, the Heavenly Seal sect won't be too harsh on him. They won't drive him away but will let him reflect on his actions. And perhaps one day, he will be sent to attack Imperial Spirit Mountain to redeem himself. Guizhen, too weak, was killed by me." Wan Wuing clicked his tongue. "In my opinion, the elders of the Heavenly Seal sect are still rigid in their ways. It would be better to let me slay Zhu Taiji and forge him into a corpse commander, far more useful than a rebellious golden core cultivator." Chu Xuan chuckled softly, "The leaders of Heavenly Seal sect fear you as well." Wan Wuing snorted, "Of course I know that. They don't want me to become too powerful. But they still need to rely on me now and dare not treat me poorly. This battle has indeed established the reputation of my extranean cave. No one dares to provoke the tiger anymore. Just continue to act as usual during this time. And do not tarnish the name of extranean cave." Chu Xuan nodded, "Yes." Wan Wuing then said, "You take care of cleaning up the battlefield. Don't waste so many corpses." "Yes." With that, Wan Wuing rode the black winds and vanished in the blink of an eye. Chu Xuan felt a bit sentimental. His master was indeed reliable. A good thing indeed. He diligently gathered his own resources. But nothing compared to the master directly bestowing him a trove of treasures. The great battle thus concluded. Over the lands of Wu province, only a few foundation establishment cultivators led Qi refining cultivators in resistance. Additionally, the land was rife with poisonous creatures and demonic beasts. These also needed time to be cleared. If not cleared, it was impossible to establish mundane cities. And without mundane cities, true dominion could not be discussed. The Golden Core Masters of the Heavenly Seal sect naturally wouldn't spare the energy for such tasks. These chose of clearing GU cultivators, poisonous creatures, and demonic beasts, and establishing mundane cities, would all be delegated and completed by the disciples of the Heavenly Seal sect. A sect expands its territory step by step in this manner, growing ever more vast and formidable. Chu Xuan was too lazy to care about these commissions. Too troublesome. It was quicker to make money through looting. Chu Xuan swiftly claimed the battlefield before anyone else could react. Nearly 1,000 corpses were collected into the corpse nurturing tower. Chu Xuan, piloting the green shadow shuttle, was about to return to the water curtain cave. Then he heard an urgent shout from below. Uncle Master Chu. Looking down, it was Chen Ji lying amidst a pile of corpses. However, Chen Ji had lost his right arm. His body was also covered with numerous wounds. Yet, his face was filled with joy. Clearly, he had reaped great rewards. Seeing no one around, Chen Ji took a storage bag from his arm and respectfully presented it with both hands, whispering, "Uncle Master, this is a storage bag from 1,000 Sect Foundation establishment cultivator that I found. I didn't dare to keep it for myself. After much thought, I decided it should be presented to you." Chu Xuan chuckled softly. For this once junior brother, now a nephew disciple, he held a deep impression. Now, Chen Ji's actions were quite commendable. Chu Xuan casually accepted the storage bag. "Chen Ji, let's go. I'll accompany you part of the way. In the future, when you establish your own cultivator family, I will lend a helping hand." Chen Ji was immensely moved, almost kneeling in gratitude. "Thank you, Uncle Master." He could have easily kept the storage bag for himself. The value inside would even surpass that of 2 or 3 dozen Qi refining stage cultivators' storage bags combined. Yet, after much deliberation, he decided to hand it over to Chu Xuan. Because he could say, out of the 4 foundation establishment cultivators from Extranean Cave, now only Chu Xuan remained. He had outlived Li Xuanmin, Liu Zhenxian, and Wei Ten. Why wouldn't he invest in such a person? Why not serve him? A short while later, Chu Xuan set down Chen Ji at Plain City. Chen Ji respectfully said, "Thank you, Uncle Master Chu. Once I recover from my injuries, I will start establishing my cultivator family." Chu Xuan smiled, "Very good. Extranean Cave needs to grow and thrive, and it requires your contributions of spiritual seedlings." Chu Xuan watched him depart, then once again piloted the green shadow shuttle into the wind. He quickly returned to the water curtain cave. On the blue star, Chu Xuan opened each of the storage bags one by one. The 1,000 Sect AGU cultivators were generally quite poor. Their spirit stones were few, but they possessed countless GU insects and eggs. The foundation establishment cultivators of the Heavenly Seal sect, on the other hand, had considerably more substantial wealth. From their storage bags, Chu Xuan found many unexpected items. Items like blood beads, GU insects, demonic pills, and magic talismans clearly all back up strategies and resources. Yet, they hadn't even had a chance to use them before they met their demise. Finally, two exquisite storage bags lay before Hen. One belonged to Li Xuanming, the other to Duan Feiping. The best was saved for last, a treat to be savored. These two storage bags were bound to be the most valuable. Time to open these blind boxes. Within Li Xuanming's storage bag, the spirit stones were surprisingly scant, amounting to just over 3,000 small spiritual stones and about 20 to 30 medium spiritual stones. Chu Xuan surmised that Li Xuanming had likely spent the spirit stones before the war, exchanging them for magic tools and other forms of immediate combat power. As for magic tools, Chu Xuan found several high-grade defensive magic tools. There was also one top-grade defensive magic tool, a personal undergarment armor. Although it had been damaged during the battle between Li Xuanming and Duan Feiping. However, the three secret techniques hidden by Li Xuanming piqued Chu Xuan's interest. Turtle Breath Technique, a high-grade foundation establishment stage cultivation method with 3 levels. It could completely conceal one's aura, making one appear as a mere mortal. When cultivated to its highest level, one could freely intensify or weaken their aura. Venom Scripture, which recorded over 100 poison formulas, covering both chi refining and foundation establishment stages, along with various methods of administering poisons. Such esoteric and unorthodox methods were uniquely valuable to Chu Xuan. He had previously dabbled in the art of poison, but the poison techniques of the Infinite Sect were relatively mediocre. He had only explored them superficially and regretted not delving deeper. Now, a comprehensive manual on poisons was literally handed to him on a platter. There was no reason to let it slip away again. Complete root seizing technique, which could extract another spiritual root and transplant it into oneself. The more materials prepared, the more complete the extraction of the spiritual root. At its highest, it can fully seize another spiritual root. Chu Xuan clicked his tongue. His own spiritual root was a mid-grade wood-leaning spiritual root. Hence, he had long prepared a secret technique to seize spiritual roots, although he had seldom had the chance to use it. Either there was no suitable target, or he lacked the necessary materials. However, the technique he had only allowed for seizing up to 50% of another spiritual root. For an ultimate thunder spiritual root like Duan Feiping's, even if transplanted, it would likely degrade to a superior grade thunder root. But with this complete root seizing technique, he could potentially seize an ultimate thunder root in its entirety. Such an opportunity was monumental. Chu Xuan carefully stored these items. Then, he opened Duan Feiping's storage bag, and the contents left him astonished. Indeed, Duan was secretly regarded by many as the foremost among the 3 scions of the Heavenly Seal. His wealth was astoundingly abundant. Chu had never seen such a well-stocked storage bag. Small spiritual stones, 6,000. Medium spiritual stones, 200. Top-grade magic tools, 2. Foundation Establishment Stage Magic Talismans, 4. Foundation Establishment Stage Beast Spirit Talismans produced by Imperial Spirit Mountain, 8. Foundation Establishment Stage Demonic Pills, 1 bottle. Foundation Establishment Stage Healing Pills, 8 bottles. Foundation Establishment Stage Killing Arrays, Defense Arrays, and various special arrays, 12 in total. Besides, there was an extensive collection of cultivation manuals. Heavenly Seal Sect, Thousand Insect Sect, Blood Fury Sect, and more, all included. Clearly, These were the spoils of war Duan Faping had collected from slain enemies, including Duan Faping himself. All these treasures had fallen into Chu Xuan's hands. Rich as Croesus, Chu Xuan marveled, clicking his tongue in wonder as he carefully stored away the treasures. He then began the process of seizing and transplanting spiritual roots. The complete root seizing technique required 3 types of pills as mediators to excavate and hold the spiritual roots. 2 of these pills were high-grade foundation establishment stage, and the third was even a top-grade foundation establishment stage pill. All of them possessed the properties to reinforce or even repair damaged spiritual rates, making them exceptionally expensive. The high-grade foundation establishment stage pills each cost at least 600 small spiritual steins, and the top-grade foundation establishment stage pill demanded a whopping 800 small spiritual steins, and even at that price, they were scarce. Ultimately, this was due to the rare ingredients required for their creation. If Chu Xuan did not have the planet Blue Star as his backyard, with its abundance of zombies serving as furnaces to grow spiritual plants, he would have found it challenging to gather these essential pills. There are a few types of spiritual plant seeds I still need. I'll go buy them shortly. Let's plant these seeds now in time. They will grow, and I can attempt to concoct the pills. With that, Chu Xuan headed to the unnamed market to purchase the seeds. In a tea house at the nameless market, Chu Xuan sat quietly on an armchair, eyes closed as if dozing. The tea and snacks served by the female cultivator remained untouched. He was always cautious with anything not prepared under his watchful eye if he could avoid eating. He would. Moments later, a figure appeared on the 3rd floor. Almost instantly as the footsteps sounded, Chu Xuan's eyes snapped open, his muscles tensing, nearly ready to trigger an attack spell. The newcomer, seeing the fierce aura Chu Xuan exuded as if he was about to strike, seemed to recognize someone he had once fought. In that instant, both recognized each other's true identity. Tap, tap. Han Lian's footsteps were steady and firm, yet he kept a distance from Chu Xuan. This time, he did not sit down in front of Chu Xuan but stayed quite far away. Chu Xuan asked calmly, "Did you come here looking for me?" Han Lian shook his head vigorously. "You think too much. I'm not interested in fighting you to the death. The cost-benefit ratio doesn't add up." He glanced around and then asked, "What about that cultivator in need of spiritual plant seeds? Did you devour him?" Chu Xuan, "Is it possible, I'm just saying possible, that the commission was posted by me?" Han Lian looked astonished. "You don't seem like the type who enjoys farming. What do you need spiritual plant seeds for?" Chu Xuan scoffed, "That's none of your business. Hand over the gods." From a distance, Han Lian tossed a storage bag. Chu Xuan didn't catch it. Instead, he let it fall to the ground. After a moment, ensuring there were no traps, he used the evil soul chain to lift it. Chu Xuan nodded. "Good, everything I need is here. Name your price." Han Lian smiled. "Spiritual plant seeds are cheap, 30 small spiritual stones per caddy. There are 1,000 caddies of various seeds in there. You mentioned you have blood beads, let's settle and eyes." Chu Xuan nodded, counted out some large blood beads and tossed them over. Han Lian caught the blood beads and raised an eyebrow. "He Lian." Chu Xuan replied calmly, "Indeed." Han Lian stared at Chu Xuan, shocked. He had been dealing with Chu Xuan all along without penetrating his disguise. Despite priding himself on having unmatched skills in disguise, he was someone truly celestial before Han. Han Lian clicked his tongue in admiration. "Your skill in disguise is strong. Could you teach me?" Chu Xuan sneered, "Your hidden weapons are also impressive. Would you teach me those?" After a moment's thought, Han Liuyan shook his head. "Forget it. I fear the day I teach you might be the day I drop dead." Both men backed away and simultaneously made a swift exit. Their movements exceptionally synchronized. With his preparations complete, Chu Xuan headed to the zombie farm near the Haodai Hotel. The zombie matriarch diligently produced small flesh pods there, each serving as a nurturing bed for the spiritual plants. Chu Xuan then began his cultivation practices. He had to practice the turtle breath technique, the boiling blood scripture, the body-protecting golden wheel decree, and even glanced through the venom scripture when he had the chance. Although he only intended to dabble lightly without going deep, it would still consume a considerable amount of time. Days passed one after another, and within a year, various spiritual plants matured successfully. Chu Xuan began to attempt alchemy. Previously, he had only refined the Earth Evil Pill. However, the grade of the Earth Evil Pill was not high. Only a low-grade foundation establishment stage pill. The three types he was going to attempt were all high-grade and top-grade foundation establishment stage pills. Even though Chu Xuan was somewhat prepared, he was still surprised by the low success rate of these three pills. It was incredibly low. For these two high-grade foundation establishment stage pills, he failed 6 furnaces before succeeding once. As for the top-grade foundation establishment stage pill Heaven Patching Pill, he tried 7 times and failed each time. Chu Xuan couldn't help shaking his head. It was too difficult. To be safe, it would be better to find a professional. You want to find a top-grade foundation establishment alchemist. That's not easy. Han Liuyan shook his head involuntarily after hearing Chu Xuan's description. Foundation establishment low-grade alchemists were plentiful. Even Han Liuyan and Chu Xuan themselves could refine foundation establishment low-grade pills. However, it was difficult to refine mid-grade pills and above. It would be best to find a professional alchemist who specialized in pill refinement. But finding a top-grade foundation establishment alchemist, that was not easy at all. Chu Xuan could manage to take it a step further and trouble Wa and Wuing directly to invite the Golden Core Elder of the Heavenly Seal Sect to refine pills. But could he afford the price that they would ask for? Han Liuyan said, "I'll do my best to keep an eye out for Heaven Patching Pills and anyone who can refine them." Chu Xuan nodded, "All right." He then flicked 3 large blood beads over as payment. Chu Xuan continued his daily cultivation. His main cultivation technique was the Blood Evil Demon Refining Scripture, supplemented by techniques like Turtle Breath Technique and Boiling Blood Technique. Benefiting from the endless yin evil chi and the replenishment of the large blood beads, he progressed smoothly. However, bang! A muffled explosion came from the pill furnace. Chu Xuan opened the lid and found that the pill liquid inside had turned into a solidified, charred, and unrecognizable mass. Dan. Chu Xuan frowned at the lump of charred matter and gave it the middle finger. It seemed that his talent in alchemy was still lacking. He could barely refine high-grade foundation establishment pills. But he had been failing continuously in refining top-grade foundation establishment pills. During this period, he had failed almost 20 furnaces, if not 30. All failures. Too difficult. Chu Xuan casually threw out the charred lump. Bao quickly rushed over and swallowed it in one gulp. Its expression looked rather satisfied. Chu Xuan was no longer surprised by its reaction. In fact, during this period of failed alchemy attempts, this little guy had eaten all the leftovers. He didn't know why it loved eating these things. Han. The mother-child stone broke. It seems there's a result. Chu Xuan's eyes lit up. He quickly packed up and headed straight to the Nameless Market. The Nameless Market tea house. When Chu Xuan arrived, Han Lian was already waiting there. He got straight to the point. I found what you asked me to look for. I found a top-tier foundation establishment alchemist at Mystical Sound Palace. You provide the materials and she'll refine the pills. She charges 500 small spiritual stones for the alchemy. And she also requires 1 pill after it's refined. Chu Xuan frowned. It's pricey, but acceptable. My only condition is that she refines the pills in front of me. Han Lian scratched his head. Alchemy in front of you. That's an unusual request. Let me ask her. He took out a sound-transmitting jade and sent his voice across. Soon, he received a response. The response was just 1 sentence. Okay, I'm coming right away. Chu Xuan was puzzled. Isn't she at Mystical Sound Palace? Mystical Sound Palace's headquarters are in Qian Province. Located in the central part of Yu Kingdom. 80,000 li from here. How could an alchemist from Mystical Sound Palace rush over here? Han Lian smiled. She's currently traveling through the 9 provinces of Yu Kingdom, purchasing alchemy materials in this market. As soon as he finished speaking, footsteps echoed up the stairs. Immediately after, a graceful figure walked in. If one had to describe her appearance, Chu Xuan could only say, her features were delicate and exquisite. Small mouth, small nose and eyes. All say small. The woman looked at Chu Xuan. My name is Yan Shao. Are you here to refine the heaven-patching pills? Chu Xuan nodded, tossing over a storage bag. All the materials are inside. Enough to refine 2 furnaces of it. The alchemy fees also included. Yan Shao nodded. Good, I'll start the furnace now. The 3 of them entered a soundproof chamber. Yan Shao took out a small bronze cauldron from the storage bag, ignited the spirit wood with flame arts, and heated the cauldron. Then she began to add various materials into the cauldron. The entire process flowed smoothly, done in one go. This level of proficiency could only come from refining dozens of heaven-patching pills. Chu Xuan watched closely, without blinking. Han Lian snacked on pastries, smiling ambiguously. Stop staring. Without sufficient talent in alchemy, you won't learn a thing. We should stick to refining low-grade pills ourselves. High-grade pills like these should be left to professional alchemists. Chu Xuan ignored him and continued to observe. It wasn't until Yan Shao finished refining 2 furnaces of pills that he reluctantly looked away. Yan Shao was surprised. Someone could actually watch her alchemy for over 5 hours without looking away. This person had remarkable perseverance, likely with some talent in alchemy. Maybe he really did learn something. Thinking of this, she felt a bit regretful. Her alchemy techniques were passed down exclusively within her family. If they were truly learned by an outsider just from observing once, she would probably become a sinner. Han Lian was also astonished. Did you learn something? Chu Xuan clicked his tongue. Not really. Han Lian, Yan Shao. Chu Xuan smiled. He did manage to glean a little, but not much. Yan Shao's alchemy technique was undoubtedly far superior to his pedestrian methods. That was beyond doubt. If he could obtain Yan Shao's alchemy technique. Yan Shao handed over a jade bottle. There's a small formation on the mouth of this bottle. It will only unlock by itself once I leave the boundaries of what province. If I come under attack, the formation will self-destruct. This transaction is complete. With that, Yan Shao took the items and turned to leave. She showed no intention of lingering. Chu Xuan sneered, cutting it close. However, this female cultivator could refine top-grade foundation establishment-level pills, indicating considerable wealth. There might be a few people hiding in the shadows to protect her. As for this Han Lian, who knew if he was really a guardian? To play it safe, it was indeed unnecessary to provoke trouble. After Yan Chao left, Han Lian whispered, "This woman is not simple. I received a commission from a disciple of the Heavenly Seal sect to kill her. But she always has 3 or 4 late foundation establishment stage cultivators protecting her. Later, she even found out about me." Chu Xuan asked, "And then?" Han Lian smiled, "Then she offered me 5 times the price. I firmly refused, saying the employer was my senior brother in the sect, my fellow disciple, and she immediately raised it to 10 times. You know it's impossible to refuse." Chu Xuan scoffed, "Leave." Han Lian hurriedly said, "Don't go. I have a job here. Let's explore an ancient secret realm together. That place is full of treasures, many opportunities. I've heard that many foundation establishment cultivators are planning to explore it." Chu Xuan shook his head, not interested. "I'd rather sit down and cultivate properly." Han Lian was puzzled, "But you're a demonic cultivator. How can you call yourself one without fighting and seizing opportunities?" Chu Xuan replied calmly, "I'm different from other demon cultivators. My cultivation is on putting down the butcher's knife and becoming a Buddha on the spot." Han Lian watched him walk away, speechless. After a long time, he sighed. This guy is so stubborn, trying to trick him is too difficult. Haodai Hotel, rooftop. Duan Fabian, his limbs severed, howled weakly but received no response. Before his eyes, there was only a corpse puppet, intermittently stuffing large blood beads into his mouth to ensure he didn't perish. Duan Fabian could only see thousands of flesh sacks lying in the zombie farm, covered in lush and dripping spirit plants. A gentle breeze caused them to sway continuously. Yet to him, these things were no different from the devil's fangs. It was too terrifying. This place was simply hell. How had Chu Xuan found such a place? To continuously use flesh sacks to cultivate spirit plants. No wonder Chu Xuan possessed such terrifying strength. Duan Fabian secretly tried to contact his master, Zhu Taiji, using a jade slip embedded in his flesh, injecting countless spiritual qi and sending numerous calls for help. But all signals sank without a trace, receiving no response at all. Duan Fabian didn't know where exactly this place was. All he knew was that he was waiting for death. Buzz. Suddenly, a figure appeared before him without warning. Duan Fabian focused and saw that it was Chu Xuan. His eyes widened in disbelief. How could Chu Xuan appear out of thin air? This was definitely not something a foundation establishment cultivator could possess. Heh. Duan Fabian tried to speak, but his trachea had already been severed, only strange syllables escaping. Chu Xuan calmly said, "You've waited long enough. Don't worry, I'll soon send you on your way." Duan Fabian, I don't want to go. Don't come near me." Following the complete root seizing technique, Chu Xuan laid out the materials. Seizing spiritual roots was divided into 3 steps: extracting the spiritual roots, bearing the spiritual roots, and transplanting the spiritual roots. 3 types of pills corresponded to these steps. Among them, transplanting the spiritual roots was the most difficult. Foreign spiritual roots would react adversely with one's own body and had to be neutralized with heaven patching pills. Chu Xuan patted Duan Feiping's shoulder reassuringly. It won't hurt too much. Relax. He directly took out a pill, the forbidden spirit pill, and pushed it into Duan Feiping's mouth. This pill would reduce Duan Feiping's affinity with the spiritual qi to the lowest level, temporarily separating his body from the spiritual roots. Sure enough, after dozens of breaths, Duan Feiping showed a look of horror. He felt like a mortal, completely unable to sense the existence of his spiritual roots. Chu Xuan seized the opportunity. A short knife plunged directly into Duan Feiping's abdomen. The spiritual roots were located 3 inches deep in the qi sei. Once a cultivator died, the spiritual roots would immediately disappear. This was why Chu Xuan hadn't killed Duan Feiping and had kept him alive until now. Chu Xuan's movements were swift and precise. In the blink of an eye, he extracted a complete spiritual root. Duan Feiping's spiritual root was purple blue, with green and yellow on either side. These colors represented the attributes of thunder, wood, and metal. However, Duan Feiping's spiritual root was predominantly thunder attributed, with the wood and gold attributes so weak as to be almost non-existent, making it difficult to affect his absorption of thunder spiritual qi. It was because of this that the Heavenly Seal sect had classified his spiritual root as an ultimate grade thunder spiritual root. The spiritual root was soft and delicate, feeling like cartilage to the touch. Woo-woo! Duan Feiping cried out in pain, contorting like a twisted worm. The agony of having his spiritual root forcibly taken was beyond what an ordinary person could endure. Even as one of Heavenly Seal sect's top 3 disciples who had experienced numerous battles, he couldn't bear this pain. With a final stroke of the knife, Chu Xuan ended Duan Feiping's life. He then took out another pill, dissolved it with spiritual qi, and injected it into the spiritual root. Gradually, the spiritual root hardened, forming a tough outer layer. Only then could the spiritual root temporarily exist outside the body. Otherwise, if left in the air for too long, the spiritual root would gradually vaporize until it completely disappeared. Chu Xuan then took out another forbidden spirit pill, this time swallowing it himself. Taking a deep breath, he fiercely stabbed his qi si and forcefully extracted his own spiritual root. The empty space in his qi si couldn't accommodate more spiritual roots. To transplant someone else's spiritual root, he had to remove his own. The moment he extracted his spiritual root, Chu Xuan felt as though he possessed all the cultivation in the world but couldn't sense even a trace of spiritual qi from heaven and earth. It was as if he had been completely cut off from the world. He picked up the exceptional thunder spiritual root and roughly stuffed it into his qi sei. The intense rejection reaction caused him excruciating pain that penetrated to his bones. Cold sweat poured out. Veins bulged. Chu Xuan quickly swallowed a prepared heaven-patching pill. Only then did the surging tide of pain gradually subside. "Who, come here?" Chu Xuan shouted loudly. Who had been standing nearby, hurried over as fast as lightning. Following Chu Xuan's command, it had already opened its own abdomen. Struggling to stand, Chu Xuan inserted the wood spiritual root he had extracted from himself into his belly. The strain on him reached its limit at that moment, and he passed out completely. When he woke up again, the wound on his abdomen had already healed. The exceptional thunder spiritual root had merged seamlessly with his body. He stood up, flexing his muscles slightly, sensing no abnormalities. Chu Xuan thought for a moment, then called for Ho. He felt that even the medium-grade wood spiritual root shouldn't go to waste. So he attempted to insert it into his belly, though he wasn't sure what changes would occur. Soon after, a figure appeared in the distance, bounding swiftly towards him. With a few leaps, the figure appeared before him. Chu Xuan raised an eyebrow in surprise. he noticed that whose appearance had undergone significant changes. Its fierce and angular body had softened, and its hollow eyes now showed a human-like gaze. Who opened its mouth, but instead of roar, it emitted a few unpleasant syllables. Chu Xuan became alert. Try harder. Who cleared its throat and growled in annoyance, but ultimately only managed to produce a few incomprehensible syllables. It looked somewhat frustrated and lowered its head. Chu Xuan pondered. Although it couldn't yet speak human language, its lively eyes seemed genuine. The combination of a corpse puppet's body and a cultivator's spiritual root seemed to have created an unexpected creation. Spiritual root, corpse puppet. There must have been demonic cultivators who tried this before. But did they succeed? Chu Xuan mused, finding it increasingly intriguing. Don't be anxious, one day you'll surely speak, Chu Xuan reflected with some emotion. Ho, he nodded. Normally, a corpse puppet had to condense corpse core to become a corpse commander before it could speak, albeit with a simple vocabulary. Who, as a corpse general, was already producing syllables. In the future, it would only get faster than an ordinary corpse puppet. Corpse puppet's body is robust, with a spiritual rate. It can absorb spiritual chi from heaven and earth, and even learn the techniques and spells of cultivators. I feel like I've created a monster, Chu Xuan marveled. Chu Xuan sat cross-legged, quietly cultivating. The attributes of his spiritual root underwent fundamental changes. Normally, this would necessitate switching to a new primary cultivation technique. However, doing so would mean completely dispersing his previous cultivation and starting anew. Chu Xuan had already advanced to the late foundation establishment stage. Dispersing his cultivation would render the years of effort he had invested utterly in vain, a consequence too heavy for anyone to bear. Yet, such considerations applied to orthodox cultivators. For those on the demonic path, who possessed means to seize spiritual rates, maintaining existing cultivation without dispersing it was a feasible capability. The blood evil demon refining scripture was one such unique technique. As a demonic cultivation method, it inherently possessed the ability to alter its attributes. Originally a wood attribute technique. Through repeated operations, the spiritual chi within a demonic cultivator's body could also change accordingly. It could even be transformed into variant attributes like thunder or wind. Moreover, since thunder belonged to Yan wood and Wintian wood, transforming the blood evil demon refining scripture into a thunder attribute technique was actually simpler than converting it into other elemental attributes. To transform the technique, only a thunder attribute spiritual material was needed, thunder striking wood. In front of Chu Xuan appeared a section of charred thunder striking wood. At its lower end, a tender shoot had just sprouted. Thunder, capable of destruction unparalleled, also harbored the power to foster life with the arrival of spring thunder and the first rain of spring. Sprouting myriad bangs, thunder striking wood could also enhance Chu Xuan's acquired spiritual body, achieving dual benefits with a single effort. Such a small section of thunder striking would contain two attributes and multiple powers. Its mysteries boundless. Thunder striking wood was of a high grade. This base, a top-grade foundation establishment material, had cost Chu Xuan 300 small spiritual stones to acquire. He hadn't utilized Hen Liuyan's channels but instead entrusted Chen Ji to make the purchase. Although this approach was slower and more expensive, it was safer. Chu Xuan wasn't foolish enough to entrust all transactions to Hen Liuyan, as that could easily expose his intentions. Hen Liuyan, possessing only a superior grade spiritual root, secretly surpassed Chu Faping in strength and seemed to wield an extensive intelligence network, an unquestionably formidable individual. It was precisely because Chu Xuan and Han Lian possessed similar strengths that neither of them acted rashly. They proceeded with caution in their collaboration, each carefully testing the other's abilities. If Chu Xuan were to discover one day that Han Lian had weakened or suffered serious injury, he would not hesitate to eliminate this individual who knew so many of his secrets. He believed that Han Lian would likely do the same. Throughout, Chu Xuan had always regarded Han Lian as someone to be useful when beneficial, discarded when not. With no further discussion needed, Chu Xuan immediately began refining the thunder striking wood with spiritual qi. Rich thunder spiritual qi and wood spiritual qi surged into his body. Spiritual qi flowed continuously within him, following the path of the blood evil demon refining scripture, which altered it into thunder attribute. 1 cycle, 2 cycles, 3 cycles. With each successive operation, the spiritual qi underwent constant changes. After a day, it finally completely transformed from wood attribute spiritual qi to thunder attribute spiritual qi. Phew! Chu Xuan let out a sigh of relief. That was finally accomplished. Moreover, due to the formidable lethality of thunder spiritual qi, the spells he cast henceforth would also be imbued with the power of lightning. When facing cultivators of the same realm, he would mostly dominate the battlefield. Coupled with his hidden cards, even Foundation Establishment 8th layer cultivators were not his match. Water curtain case. The moment Chu Xuan appeared, he detected a sound transmission array within the formation. It was Xuan Wuying's. Thus, he arrived at Xuan Wuying's cave residence. With a rumble, the cave residence opened. Xuan Wuying was not sitting on the bone throne but joyfully pacing back and forth. Next to the bone throne stood a robust, dark figure. Its body was over 1 jom tall, muscles bulging, and veins protruding like dragons. The aura emanating from it made Chu Xuan's scalp tingle. He had no doubt that this was a corpse commander equivalent to a golden core cultivator. Xuan Wuying smiled faintly. While I was healing, I took the opportunity to refine the corpse of 100 Gu Daoist into a corpse commander. Chu Xuan hurriedly bowed. Master's demonic arts are unparalleled. In the future, you will certainly step into the nascent soul, sweep through the world, and recreate Infinite Sect's glory. Xuan Wuying waved dismissively. Forget it. Infinite Sect is down to just a handful of us. What glory is there to recreate? Let it dissipate completely into the dust of history. Chu Xuan clicked his tongue. He wondered how Xuan Wuying could be more detached than himself. Xuan Wuying casually continued. I summoned you this time to teach you the method of condensing the golden core. Chu Xuan immediately perked up, feeling as though he had been called by his superior for a meeting, only to unexpectedly receive a promotion. Please, have a seat. Xuan Wuying gestured towards a cushion nearby. Chu Xuan sat down on it. Xuan Wuying cleared his throat and began. There are 4 methods for condensing the golden core. The first is to compress spiritual liquid until it solidifies completely, forming the full golden core. This is the most orthodox method, resulting in extremely robust spiritual qi once formed. However, it is also the slowest. Without at least a decade, one cannot fully solidify the spiritual liquid. If you do not possess an earth grade or higher spiritual root, this path is not for you. Of course, if you insist on choosing this path, I have a secret technique called the 9 cycles core condensation method, passed down from ancient times. You can take it directly. Xuan worrying clicked his tongue and continued. After the ancient times, as spiritual chi faded, the orthodox method of core condensation became exceedingly difficult. Later generations of cultivators sought alternative paths. The second method involves using a demonic-based inner core as a catalyst, injecting spiritual liquid into it to forcibly solidify it using the inner core's power. This type of golden core is generally referred to as the beast golden core. The overall amount of spiritual chi in a beast golden core is moderate, but its combat prowess is formidable. However, due to the use of a demonic-based inner core, practitioners may sometimes be prone to the beast's instincts, bloodlust, light aversion, and water affinity. I have 2 secret techniques for core condensation using this method. The Fire 8 core condensation method requires the inner core of a Fire attribute 8 demonic-based. The Thunder Falcon core condensation method requires the inner core of a Thunder attribute bird demonic-based. Seeing Chu Xuan's lack of response, Xuan Wuyin continued speaking. The third method involves using a magic tool as a catalyst to condense the core. This type of golden core is known as the instrument golden core. Depending on the type of magic tool, it may also be called sword golden core, saber golden core, axe golden core, and so on. Golden cores condensed using this method generally have less spiritual chi than beast golden cores. However, if one can manipulate the same type of magic tool, its power will greatly increase, such as a sword golden core wielding a sword magic tool or a saber golden core wielding a saber magic tool. I do not possess secret techniques for this condensation method. You will need to seek them out yourself. Xuan worrying spoke calmly. Next, there is a fourth method, which I personally chose. Extract the chi seeds of 100 foundation establishment cultivators and refine them into chi seed pills. Swallow 100 pills and a golden core forms naturally. This type of golden core is called the blood golden core. Chu Xuan's heart trembled upon hearing this. Full golden core, beast golden core, instrument golden core, blood golden core. Without the dense spiritual chi of ancient times, cultivators still relied on their own wisdom to create new methods of core formation. Xuan worrying casually said, "So, which one do you want?" After careful consideration, Chu Xuan replied earnestly, "I want them all." Xuan worrying rolled his eyes. Nevertheless, he reached out and retrieved 4 volumes from his storage bag. They were respectively titled 9 Cycles Core Condensation Method, Fire 8 Core Condensation Method, Thunder Falcon Core Condensation Method, and Chi Si Core Condensation Method. Since the In Extreme Cave now has only one foundation establishment disciple like you, I have no one else to nurture, Xuan worrying said, waving his hand to dismiss Chu Xuan. After Chu Xuan left, Xuan worrying chuckled to himself. Which method will this kid choose in the end? Upon leaving the cave residence, Chu Xuan returned to the Blue Star and settled down, carefully studying the 4 methods of core condensation. The 9 cycles core condensation method is so difficult it requires 9 complete consolidations and recoveries. Who is that much lifespan to spare? As for the Thunder Falcon core condensation method, it seems to be the quickest method for me now. I just need to find the inner cores of 9 Thunder attribute bird demonic beasts at the foundation establishment stage. As for the Chi Si core condensation method, it is also an option. However, if I were to kill 100 cultivators at the late foundation establishment stage and refine their Chi Sis, it would certainly differ significantly from killing 100 at the early stage. 100 at the late foundation establishment stage. I'll need to completely overturn the righteous sects to achieve that, won't I? Chu Xuan shook his head. Priority to the Thunder Falcon core condensation method. With the Chi core condensation method as a backup, Chu Xuan immediately sent a message to Chen Jie, asking him to keep an eye out for the inner cores of Thunder attribute bird demonic beasts at the Foundation establishment stage. He then resumed his cultivation with the ultimate grade Thunder spiritual root. His cultivation speed increased significantly. However, upon reaching the late Foundation establishment stage, the amount of spiritual chi required for each minor breakthrough was far greater than in the middle stage. After sitting motionless in the soul-capturing evil nurturing array for half a year, Chu Xuan's spiritual chi had only increased by a small amount. During this period, the war between the Heavenly Seal sect and the local factions in Wu province generally came to an end. A golden core cultivator from Imperial Spirit Mountain was severely injured but had to swallow his grievances. A rare period of peace descended over the Wu province area. As for the eastern three provinces of Blue Star, with Chu Xuan's presence, peace reigned even more profoundly. There were no significant disturbances. Chu Xuan quite enjoyed this slow-paced life. Every day was spent practicing cultivation, refining pills, and raising insects. Occasionally, he would release his three corpses, Lon and Bound, to roam freely like unrestrained wild dogs. For Chu Xuan, this peaceful farming life surpassed all the bloodshed, heroic pursuits, and fate-stealing endeavors. Extremian Cave. Chu Xuan, as the senior brother of Extremian Cave, sat at the head seat. Beside him were two Foundation establishment disciples, a young man and a woman. The young man, Shu Min, exuded confidence, yet his gaze towards Chu Xuan was filled with deep respect. Wei Xiaoman, the female disciple, introduced herself as a member of the Corpse Puppet sect. Previously a loose cultivator in Chen province, she promptly joined upon hearing of Wei and Wuing's establishment of Extremian Cave under the Heavenly Seal sect. The Corpse Puppet sect had been annihilated by the 5 righteous sects over 300 years ago. Most of its lineage was absorbed by the righteous sects, while the remainder fell under the Infinite Sect, which subsequently developed some corpse refining techniques. Wei Xiaoman, only at the early Foundation establishment stage, found a smooth entry into Extremian Cave due to Wei and Wuing's possession of Foundation establishment stage techniques from the Corpse Puppet sect and the lack of Foundation establishment disciples. Li Xiaoman was not exceptionally beautiful but had a slender waist. She sat upright, her piercing gaze revealing a sharp and imposing demeanor. At the highest point of the dojo sat Wei and Wuing, the founder of Extremian Cave. Within the dojo, 76 spiritual seedlings gathered, ranging in cultivation from no spiritual chi to the 3rd level of chi refining. Among them were ordinary folks from Tom province, descendants of immortal cultivation families, and local natives of Wu province who had suffered under the oppression of the 1000 Insect sect. Having passed rigorous selection processes, they were all accepted into Extremian Cave. Wei and Wuing did not accept chi refining disciples himself. As the eldest senior brother, Chu Xuan acted as the representative to accept new disciples. However, he acknowledged that while his strength was considerable, he was not adept at teaching. Thus, he entrusted the crucial task of guiding and instructing disciples to those who genuinely loved such responsibilities and life itself. His primary hope was for his junior brothers and sisters to gain experience, not merely to be an absentee manager. The disciple induction ceremony quickly concluded, and Wei and Wuing rose immediately. The disciples collectively shouted, "Farewell, Patriarch." Chu Xuan, you handle things from here, Wei and Wuing instructed before disappearing. Chu Xuan swiftly assigned half of the disciples to Xu Ming and the other half to Li Xiaoman. Then left the dojo with an air of leisure, leaving his junior siblings in a state of astonishment. "Senior sister, what will you teach the disciples?" "I'd like to learn," Xu Ming scratched his head. Li Xiaoman glanced at him and replied nonchalantly. "Dissection, cults refining, ghost nurturing, puppet refining, and a bit of poison technique." Xu Ming cautiously took a step back. "I understand, senior sister, no need to say more. It's quite creepy." After the disciple induction ceremony concluded, calm returned once more. Extranian Cave gradually expanded its influence, under the diligent efforts of the disciples, who tirelessly relocated ordinary people and established mortal cities. The territory of Extranian Cave continued to expand. Chu Xuan's 3 corps commanders devoured a significant amount of Foundation establishment cultivators' flesh and blood, rapidly advancing their realms. Amundan, with the highest cultivation, had even reached the 8th level corps commander stage, surpassing Chu Xuan by a hair's breadth. His lifebound GU had also reached the mid-second transformation stage, while the Queen Bee GU was accelerating in growth and had already reached the late first transformation stage. The worker bees it produced numbered in the thousands, with blood honey slowly accumulating and numerous soldier bee eggs lying dormant. At the Queen Bee's command, they would hatch immediately, transforming into formidable forces. Everything prospered, yet Chu Xuan remained somewhat discontented. He was still at the 7th level of Foundation establishment, unable to break through to the 8th. The Thunderbird demonic beast core that Chen Ji was tasked with finding had yet to be located. However, since establishing his family, Chen Ji had swiftly woven a vast intelligence network. Regularly, he sent Chu Xuan various pieces of information, keeping him informed of all external changes down to the smallest detail. In the south, the Kingdom of Yu has expanded its territory under the Heaven-Burning Sect, capturing much of the oasis within the boundless desert, establishing mortal cities. To the north, the Kingdom of Yang's 100 Refinement Sect has crossed into southern territories, engaging in several significant battles with the Heaven-Burning Sect. Both sides suffered casualties among their foundational cultivators, including some elders. Tensions are rising along the border. Han. Conflicts among the various sects of the Yu Kingdom seem never-ending. What a harmonious and friendly assembly of righteous sects. Chu Xuan chuckled. Once the thread of the Infinite Sect was removed, the 5 righteous sects would inevitably vie for their own interests, likely following the paths of dominance set by the 100 Refinement Sect and the Heaven-Burning Sect, with one sect rising above all others to bring an end to the conflicts. Chu Xuan took out a map. This was a map he had purchased for 1,000 small spiritual steins. It encompassed the kingdoms of Yu, Yan, and Yu in their entirety. These 3 kingdoms bordered each other in pairs. Between Yu and Yu lay the boundless desert. Between Yu and Yang flowed a vast and mighty river. Furthermore, there existed long-standing enmity between Yang and Yu. Only cultivators from Yu could live relatively peacefully. Han. An underground ruin has surfaced in the Misty Mountains, where some cultivators have inadvertently stumbled upon a wealth of magic tools buried underground for many years. Even some magic treasures. Chu Xuan's eyebrows raised at this intelligence. The emergence of underground ruins meant that numerous cultivators would flock there. This would inevitably lead to bloodshed, chaos, and death. For demonic cultivators, this was an unprecedented opportunity. Chu Xuan had no intention of personally wading into this quagmire. The underground ruins were too dangerous. Since treasures were emerging, Golden Core experts would be the main force exploring these ruins. As a mere Foundation establishment cultivator, how could he dare to compete with Golden Core cultivators? Perhaps, in the eyes of some Golden Core cultivators, he himself was also a tempting target. However, this did not deter Chu Xuan from conducting business near the underground ruins. Since many cultivators were rushing there, a trading market would naturally form around the ruins. Items like demonic talismans, evil elixirs, blunt beads, and other such goods that could rapidly enhance one's strength would immediately become scarce commodities. During this time, Chu Xuan could search for other condensing core methods. Perhaps there was one more suitable for him. Leaving aside other matters, a mid-grade method like the Thunder Falcon condensing core method could be replaced with a high-grade or even top-grade foundational method, which would be excellent. Chu Xuan carefully reviewed all the intelligence Chen Ji had provided. He did not fully trust the information provided by Chen Ji. In his view, anyone could betray him, even turn against him. Even if Chen Ji saw potential in him and was willing to work for him, there was a possibility that one day he might be controlled by someone stronger and used for their purposes. Relying too much on Chen Ji's intelligence network was not a wise decision. At the very least, he needed to cross-reference information from two sources. However, Chu Xuan currently lacked the capability to establish two intelligence networks. He could only rely on the intelligence provided by Han Lian and Chen Ji to cross-check each other. A few days later, the Misty Market. Although the war between the Heavenly Seal sect and the indigenous sects of Wu province had ended, the nameless market in this region persisted. Perhaps due to the surrounding mist, cultivators had come to call at the Misty Market. Over time, someone with intention erected a plaque at the entrance of the market, bearing the two words Misty Market. Chu Xuan sat calmly in a window seat of the tea house, waiting patiently. Before long, a hidden weapon whistled through the window from outside. 3 smaller projectiles suddenly split off from it when they were 3 meters away from Chu Xuan, each emitting a dangerous green glow. Clearly poisoned. Chu Xuan made no move. 3 demon claws accurately caught the 3 hidden weapons. Han Lian's laughter echoed from downstairs, gradually approaching. How about this move? It's my newly developed mother-child dart. Chu Xuan replied calmly, not bad. Han Lian clicked his tongue in amazement. To receive your approval, I am honored indeed. With a wave of his hand, he released a puff of smoke to neutralize the faint poison in the air. Your progress in poisoning is impressive. I'm starting to feel some pressure. Chu Xuan remained composed. During this period, he had been studying the Venom scripture and gained some insights. Whenever they met, they would test each other. So he decided to use Han Lian to test his newly researched poison. If Han Lian didn't die from the poison, it meant his poison skills were still inadequate, and he needed to continue his studies. If Han Lian did die one day, it would mean his poison skills had reached perfection. Han Lian continued. To the point. I invited you here this time because I wanted. Chu Xuan interrupted calmly, the underground ruins of the Misty Mountains. Han Lian looked slightly surprised. You already know. It seems your intelligence isn't lacking compared to mine. Chu Xuan lightly tapped the table. Are you planning to enter? Han Lian nodded. I've noticed a slight change in your demeanor. You must have obtained Duan-Faping spiritual root. Unlike me, with only a superior grade spiritual root. Typically, those with superior grade spiritual roots have only a 20% chance of embarking on the Golden Core path. It's too low. In those underground ruins, treasures have already surfaced. There must be spiritual objects beneficial for core formation. I have no choice but to go. Chu Xuan nodded. Such was the fate of a cultivator. One's entire life was filled with risks. Spirit stones, magic tools, spiritual objects, elixirs, formations. Everything drove cultivators tirelessly forward. Han Liuyan, seeing Chu Xuan's calm demeanor, asked in astonishment, "You're not going? Perhaps there's a path to the golden core waiting for you there." Chu Xuan shook his head. "As I've said, I don't enjoy killing. I prefer to cultivate good karma." Han Liuyan replied with a hint of disbelief. "If I hadn't seen you kill before, I might have believed you. When Jin Yu wanted to mate with you through me, saying he wanted to spar with you, I declined on your behalf," Han Liuyan added. Chu Xuan nodded. Good choice to decline. He had no interest in sparring with others. It was not only a waste of energy but also risked exposing his true abilities. Afterward, they exchanged some items and departed in different directions. Han Liuyan never took the same path Chu Xuan had walked. And Chu Xuan did the same. Blue Star. Chu Xuan arrived at the rooftop of the Haodai Hotel. A substantial amount of intelligence gathered by Black Blade was laid out before him. Although Blue Star was just a small planet with extremely poor spiritual chi, the resurgence of psionics here had subtly begun to alter all living beings on this planet. Perhaps one day, something unexpected might appear. That's why he needed to remain vigilant at all times. Even in what he considered his backyard, he couldn't afford to make mistakes. According to survivors who fled, the man-eating vines in the west are expanding. Several level 5 superhumans died surrounded by these vines. In the south, venomous insects are becoming stronger, dominated by swarms of locusts that are migrating towards the coast, devouring all vegetation along the way. In the north, the zombie empress continues to expand her territory. But instead of heading south, she is moving westward, where she has encountered the expanding man-eating vines. Additionally, there's a faction known as Science City rapidly growing, commanding at least 30 superhumans and absorbing remnants of the Linjiang army, also locking horns with the zombie empress. In the east, only a few scattered factions exist, with just 2 or 3 superhumans. Current situation from Black Blade: 11 level 1 superhumans, 5 level 2 superhumans, 2 level 3 superhumans, overseeing over 3,000 survivors. Chu Xuan nodded slightly as he read. It seemed that when Gang and his team truly valued the opportunity he had given them initially, they were handling things systematically. Originally, Chu Xuan had some thoughts about the zombie empress. However, the zombie matriarch had already been nurtured into a level 5 zombie, and it was foreseeable that her rank would continue to rise. The zombie empress was probably even more formidable now. Chu Xuan had lost interest in dealing with that creature. As for the formations and collapses of other superhuman factions, he regarded them as no more interesting than children playing house. Continue researching the Venom scripture. Chu Xuan spread out the scrolls and studied them attentively. Mystic Azure Realm. 1 month later, Chu Xuan received another report from Chen Jie. With Chu Xuan's approval, most of this report focused on the underground ruins of the Misty Mountains. Chen Jie was proficient in his work. He had sent people directly to the nameless market outside the underground ruins, continuously spending money to gather intelligence. This was the only way to present the most complete, detailed, and up-to-date information to Chu Xuan as quickly as possible. The largest entrance to the underground ruins, located in the Bullhorn Mountain of the Misty Mountains, is now occupied by the Divine Star Sect. The remaining large entrances are located on several other peaks, some occupied by the Divine Star Sect, and others by the Heavenly Seal Sect and the Imperial Spirit Mountain. The Mystical Sound Palace and the Golden Dragon Temple have already had golden core cultivators arrive at the Misty Mountains. The Orthodox sects are on the verge of conflict, likely to escalate into open conflict. The first batch of cultivators to enter the underground ruins numbered 50 to 60 people. Fewer than a handful survived. And without exception, these survivors reaped rich rewards. Some were recruited by the Divine Star Sect, while others were killed by major sect cultivators for refusing to hand over spiritual objects. Chu Xuan pondered. It appeared that within those underground ruins lay treasures enticing enough to attract golden core cultivators. Otherwise, it wouldn't have drawn golden core cultivators from all 5 Orthodox sects, nearly causing them to fight each other. Given this situation, he couldn't afford to take unnecessary risks. Chu Xuan continued reading. The latest intelligence report arrived 2 days ago. Chu Xuan's gaze sharpened as he read it. The Orthodox sects have announced today that they will allow minor sect disciples and loose cultivators to enter the underground ruins. But each person must pay a price of 30 small spiritual steins. Allow? Chu Xuan shook his head in disbelief. If the treasures inside the underground ruins are truly as rumored, how could the Orthodox sects possibly give other cultivators such an opportunity? They would prefer to seal off the entire Misty Mountains, preventing anyone from entering. Not even a bug's egg. The Orthodox sects are far from being true cultivators of righteousness, he continued. And the major sect cultivators are far from being noble. This sudden move must have some ulterior motive. Chu Xuan recalled another matter. Hen Lian hasn't contacted me for a long time. His strength is comparable to mine, and there has been no word from him since he went to the underground ruins. Combined with the sudden benevolence of the Orthodox sects, Chu Xuan pondered. Perhaps there are dangers in the underground ruins that ordinary people cannot comprehend. This move by the Orthodox sects is likely intended to use minor sect disciples and loose cultivators as fodder to explore the path ahead. Chu Xuan shook his head repeatedly. As a precaution, he decided to postpone his journey to the Misty Mountains for now. 2 days later, a message suddenly appeared in the Water Curtain Cave. Chu Xuan read it and was surprised to find it was from Wan Wuying. The underground ruins are actually the ghost palace of the Never Dao sect. I have already gone there to search for treasures. Whether you go or not, it's your choice. Chu Xuan's brow relaxed. Finally, his master gave him a hint. If he hadn't received any hints, he would have gone to find Wan Wuying himself. The Never Dao sect. It rings a bell. Chu Xuan strained to recall the ancient texts he had read. Wan Wuying had a penchant for collecting ancient texts, and Chu Xuan had managed to read some in his spare time. I remember now, Chu Xuan said to himself. The Never Dao sect was a colossal demonic sect. At its peak, it occupied territories spanning 8 kingdoms including Yan and Yi. Later, due to the disappearance of their ancestral land and conflicts among the elders for power and profit, it fragmented into over a dozen major sects, including the Infinite Sect and the Corpse Puppet Sect. Chu Xuan's eyes lit up. Such an ancient and massive sect. The Infinite Sect was just one of its branches. No wonder even Wan Wuying, usually composed, couldn't resist the temptation and went straight to this so-called ghost palace. However, Chu Xuan's momentary excitement quickly subsided, and he returned his thoughts to more practical considerations. It wasn't right to go, he shouldn't go, and there was no need to go. In fact, he might even need to start worrying about his own safety. With so many golden core cultivators vying for a share at the ghost palace of the Neverdao sect, could his master survive? Once Wan worrying was gone, Chu Xuan would lose his support and have to find another path. Moreover, the 100 Refinements sect of the Yen Kingdom and the Heaven-Burning sect of the Yu Kingdom, who knew what intentions they harbored. The tensions between these two sects were palpable, seemingly on the brink of open conflict. If they caught wind of the emergence of the Ghost Palace, how would they react? Thinking this through, Chu Xuan was suddenly alarmed. From the beginning, he had felt that the spread of information about the underground ruins was unexplainably fast. Perhaps someone was deliberately stirring up trouble behind the scenes. He couldn't rule out the involvement of the Heaven-Burning sect and the 100 Refinements sect. The cultivation world is too dangerous. I'm going back to Blue Star. Chu Xuan shook his head repeatedly. I must keep a close watch on the information about the Ghost Palace ruins and be prepared to flee. If there's any trouble, I'll directly head for Blue Star. Chu Xuan sighed deeply. If the master doesn't strive, the disciple suffers. It's tough. At that moment, there was a sound from outside, not a message, but someone visiting. Chu Xuan inspected and was surprised to find junior brother Xu Ming and junior sister Li Xiaoman. Why have you two come? Chu Xuan flashed out of the cave to meet them. Excitedly, Xu Ming exclaimed, "Senior brother, Master has sent me a message saying that the underground ruins in the Misty Mountains are the Ghost Palace of the Neverdao sect. I plan to form a team to go to the Ghost Palace. Senior brother, would you be willing to join us?" Chu Xuan looked directly at Li Xiaoman. "And you?" Li Xiaoman clasped her hands respectfully before speaking earnestly. "Senior brother, I too received Master's message. I wanted to ask whether Senior brother intends to go to the Ghost Palace to seek treasures." Her demeanor was serious and dignified, clearly awaiting Chu Xuan's response. Chu Xuan looked at the enthusiastic Xu Min and the composed Li Xiaoman and simply smiled.